The ground of Rome shook as if the very heart of the earth beat beneath his feet. Men covered in iron marched in unison, and each step sounded like an omen. The sun rose over the Roman Forum in flames of gold, reflected in swords and hopes. There, the fate of the world seemed to breathe, but no one realized that the fire that heats also consumes. In the arenas, the people screamed for blood, calling it glory. The Senate erected laws, but in the shadows, corruption wrote invisible decrees. Rome believed itself to be eternal, chosen by the gods, untouchable. But what is an empire if not flesh disguised as stone? The gods watched in silence. The Tiber carried the glow of victories, but also the echo of tears that no one saw. And at the height of greatness, Rome unknowingly sowed the ashes of her own ruin. Do you think the fall begins when the enemy attacks, or when the heart becomes blinded by light itself? If this story has already made your heart race, imagine what comes next. Every detail you just hear is just the beginning of a journey through the shadows and glory of Rome. Like now, it shows the algorithm that you value stories told with soul and helps that content reach more people who are passionate about greatness and human tragedy. Subscribe to the channel and activate the bell so you don't miss any new episodes. Here, each video is a journey through time, where power, faith, and the fall of empires come to life before your eyes. Comment below, "I heard the roar of glory." So I'll know you're one of those who see beyond history, part of those who feel the pulse of Rome to this day. Your support keeps alive the flame that history has almost extinguished. Leave your like, subscribe now, and come with me to hear the echoes of eternity. Rome was more than a city. It was a living cog, spinning between iron and gold. Its roads cut through mountains like veins pulsating power, and its ships sailed seas tinged with ambition. The legions marched with the precision of a divine clock. Each shield, each spear, moved as part of a colossal body that believed itself to be immortal. But under the glow of victories, the heart of the machine began to fail. Luxury corroded virtue. Greed fed pride. The people applauded emperors while they starved to death in the squares. Wealth flowed like wine on marble, while justice dried in the shadows of the Senate. Rome grew too much for itself. His body was vast, but his soul fragmented. What was once balance now became tension, a taut rope about to break. Can the strength of an empire endure when its foundations are made of ego and silence? The glow began to fade. The marble still gleamed, but there were already cracks that the ordinary eye could not see. In the 3rd century, Rome became the scene of intrigues, betrayals, and blood. The throne became a curse. Whoever occupied it died. Generals were crowned on the borders, and the Senate once feared was now nothing more than an echo. The legions, which once marched together, began to confront each other. The gold that sustained glory evaporated in internal wars. Germanic peoples crossed the Rhine like hungry shadows. In the east, deserts swallowed whole armies. Rome still spoke like a queen, but bled like a slave. Each decree was an attempt to contain the inevitable, each victory an illusion that masked the rot. When power turns against itself, who can save the empire from its own sword? The sky of Rome darkened as if the gods themselves had turned their faces. In the year 410, the Visigoths of Alaric besieged the city that for centuries they had believed to be invincible. 3 days were enough to destroy 800 years of pride. The doors were broken into, the temples desecrated, the statues broken before the fire that devoured the past. The roar of the legions gave way to the cry of women, the cry of old men, the roar of torches falling on the marble. Gold rolled through the streets mixed with blood, the final offering of dying glory. Rome, which had already brought kings to their knees, now begged clemency from the very barbarians it had once despised. Which is more painful, to see the enemy win or to realize that greatness itself has invited him in? When the last fire was extinguished, Rome was no longer an empire, but a body without a soul. The wind blew through the ruins like a lament. The Colosseum, which had once roared with the sound of ecstatic crowds, was now a shelter for beggars and echoes. The cracked marble reflected a truth that no one dared to say. Rome's power had died, and with it, its faith in eternity itself. Emperors became puppets, senators, shadows. The people who once applauded victories crawled for crumbs in front of the looted palaces. The Tiber carried with it the gold of the temples and the blood of the vanquished, mixing glory with shame. The streets, once filled with triumphal processions, were now filled with tears. Rome, which had ruled over kings and prophets, now begged for bread. And as the gods remained silent, a question echoed among the burnt columns. Where was the fate he had sworn to be eternal? Is pride the last empire to fall within every man? The end came not with shouts, but with silence. In the year 476, Romulus Augustulus, the last emperor of the West, was deposed without resistance. No legion marched, no sword was raised. The empire that once made the world tremble bowed before a barbarian, Odoacer. The imperial crown was sent to Constantinople as one who surrenders the heart. Of the dead man to the wind, Rome did not fall in battle. It went out slowly, like a candle choked by its own smoke. The squares were empty, the senators begged for clemency, and the people looked at the ground, unable to believe that eternity was over. The Tiber ran silently, as if lamenting what it could not change. The city that had once ruled gods and kings knelt for the first time. Which is more frightening, the fall of an empire, or the instant he accepts that he can no longer rise? The wind was now the new master of Rome. It blew between broken columns and empty temples, carrying with it the echo of the voices that once dictated the fate of the world. The sun, once reflected in marble and gold, now burned stones covered with moss and shame. The Colosseum, mutilated and silent, seemed to watch time pass with eyes of stone and longing. In the deserted squares, the past walked like a ghost. Soldiers, senators, slaves, all alike under the dust. The gods were forgotten, their altars plundered, their promises silenced. Rome no longer had kings or glory, he had only memories. And even in the ruins, something insisted on living, a whisper, a faint breath of eternity. Because true greatness does not die, it falls asleep, waiting to be remembered. Is silence the punishment of those who believed themselves to be greater than time itself? From the ashes of Rome rose something that no sword could destroy: memory. Its roads, traced by blood and ambition, became paths for kings, merchants and pilgrims. Its laws shaped the justice of future nations. Their language gave Europe a voice, and their faith, once persecuted, became the soul of the new world. What the iron erased, the spirit preserved. The church took the place of the legions, replacing spears with crosses, temples with cathedrals, and empire with faith. Rome died as a dominion, but it was reborn as an idea, as a dream, as a warning. The eternity that the Caesars sought through war was conquered by remembrance. Even though it had fallen, Rome continued to teach that true glory does not live in crowns, but in what remains when they fall. What is immortal? The power that dominates bodies, or the story that transforms souls? Rome was not destroyed by foreign spears, but by a more subtle enemy, pride. While his generals dreamed of new kingdoms, the heart of the city rotted. Lust has eroded discipline, greed has silenced honor. Each empire that is born repeats the same cycle: conquest, excess, decadence. The colossus always collapses from within. Rome fell begging for mercy, and its lament echoes to this day like a prayer engraved on the ancient stones. It is a warning, not only to kingdoms, but to human souls. Power without humility turns into ruin. Strength without virtue is disfigured into weakness. Rome's story does not end with its fall, but with the mirror it leaves before the world, to remind us that even giants crumble when they forget the ground where they were born. Do we still learn from the ruins we left behind? The ruins of Rome still breathe under the setting sun. The Colosseum, marked by the scars of time, shines like a heart that insists on beating between dust and silence. Each broken arch tells a story. Each stone holds a forgotten name. Rome died as an empire, but it was reborn as a shadow that shapes the modern world, in the laws, in the languages, in the faith, in the dreams of glory that still move men. Because true eternity is not made of statues or victories, but of memories that time cannot bury. Rome believed it to be divine and ended up begging for compassion. And perhaps, precisely for this reason, it never disappeared. Even today, between the wind and the ruins, it is possible to hear a murmur. Nothing is eternal except that which transforms. Subscribe and comment. Which moment of the fall of Rome speaks to you the most? Even the gods bleed when man forgets his humanity.